Hello everyone, welcome to the only channel on YouTube about the stock market that's worth watching. I am your host, Hamid Trades. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the SP 500, the SPY, the IWM, the NASDAQ, the dollar, the VIX, and the bonds. All right, so without further ado, let's get started with the video. Number one, real quick, let's just zoom in on how well we did today in terms of trading. So I go live every single day. I share all of my trades live completely for free. This Discord server is also for free. 120% play, two 60% plays, a 30% play, two 20% plays, a 15% play, and then we had a 20% loss. Live completely for free. If you're interested, you can see all of my streams on YouTube. All of them are still recorded. I have yet to see anyone do something like this. So yeah, if you're watching this, you are very early to things that are yet to come. So congratulations. If you guys are interested, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Tune in on Twitch. I also live stream there as well if you're interested. If not, take care. Anyway, we're still currently in a range, right? Very clearly, if you were trading today, you understand that early on, a lot of the volume was sucked out. There was very little volume early on because it's the holiday season. People still want, people are still on vacation. Right, so I think by the second week, the first and second week of January, things should start picking up again. But for now, we're still trading within this range. One thing that I want to take a look at, and even so, not to tap my own horn, even during this small little range, we killed it. We absolutely destroyed the market. So everyone that was tuning into the stream, you guys, let me stop. Anyway. So small little move today. We're trading within this range. The top level is 388, lower level is 375. Very, very simple. We're just waiting to see which direction the market is going to go, right? For a swing, it would be easiest to basically go long at a lower level or to go short at a upper level. That's very, very simple. It's basically what we're waiting for, right? But one of the things that I want to take a look at is the bonds. So the 30-year bonds, they correlate with the overall market, right? So if the bonds are doing well, then that means the stock market should also be doing well. So what we're seeing here is that the bonds are starting to become very overextended to the downside in terms of the Bollinger Band. So when this happens, once we get a very extreme move to the downside, obviously we just peaked outside of the lower bands. There's still much more room to go to the downside. But what's interesting now is how much extreme weakness can we show? And if we start showing extreme weakness in the bonds, more likely than not, that would signal some sort of a buy opportunity in the overall market as well. So currently, we're basically, in the next few days, there should be some sort of a buy opportunity in terms of just purely from the weakness that we see in the bonds. That's not a guaranteed buy opportunity, but so far, we are seeing extreme weakness in the bonds, and extreme weakness does not sustain itself. That's my point here. Okay, so there's that for the bonds. The VIX, more BS on the VIX, it looks, but the one thing that I am looking at is that this MACD indicator looks like it's about to cross above, and we know that if the VIX is skyrocketing, that usually means that the stock market is falling. So the VIX has an inverse relationship to the stock market. And this MACD indicator is showing that there should be more upside soon in the VIX for at least 1 to 2 days after we cross above. So once this blue line crosses above the orange line, right? Generally, there should be 1 or 2 days of continued upside. So if there is continued upside, then that means that there should be either stagnant or weakness in the stock market. So that also coincides pretty well with what's going on with the bonds. But yeah, I mean, things are starting to look bearish in terms of the VIX and the bonds so far. Now, the other thing I want to take a look at was the dollar. And we know that until recently, basically, the dollar was inverse to the stock market as well. So if the dollar was going up, then the stock market was going down. And currently, right, for the past few weeks now, the correlation hasn't been as strong because today we could see that the dollar was red but the stock market was also red as well. So the correlation was not as heavy and not as prevalent, right? So we went over and we looked at, you know, the bonds, the VIX, the dollar. Now I want to look at like how bad and how much more room to the downside the stocks and everything are going to have. So now immediately when you just look at the SPY, there's not really much else. There's not much to look at, right? What we can look at is the lower level of the Bollinger Bands are continuing to fall, which means that there's more room to fall to the downside before we get overextended to the downside, which is very, very worrisome, basically. And essentially, if you were short here, this is just a picture perfect opportunity to continue being short. We never crossed above any major level of resistance that would warrant any sort of short covering. So people that shorted are still short. And basically back here when we were trading outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Bands, you see that we were very overextended to the downside. And then I said that there was going to be a period where we were going to bounce so that we can have more downside, which was going to be shown by the Bollinger Band falling even lower. So now we need a much bigger drop in the stock price for us to be trading outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band. Does that make sense? So you can see here, I hope that made sense. I mean, yeah, I think that made sense. So there's that for the SPY, right? The SPY still showing a bit more room to the downside, but you know, it's not an automatic reason to become a swing bullish until we break above 388, in my opinion. Or if we come back to this level of support, we can play long against support. The IWM is very similar to the SPY in terms of where it is on the daily chart, right? But then when you look at the NASDAQ is taking a beating, and that's primarily due to what happened with Tesla and tech stocks in general. Tech stocks in general took a big beating. Chips were also down. So you can see that there, like, even with a red move, right, the NASDAQ is trading closer to its lower level of the Bollinger Band relative to where the SPY and the IWM are. But the Bollinger Band is pointed straight down. So this Bollinger Band is just going to continue falling lower, even as we continue getting more and more red candles. And it's going to take a very big red candle to start peaking outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band. Even that is not an automatic buy signal, because all it would take is just, you know, a retest of even 50% of the potential big red candle. Give it some sort of time for the market to even itself out, similar to what happened here, right? Where it evened itself out. We weren't trading outside of the lower bands anymore, only for another big move down. And that's exactly what can happen even more. So the issue is that there's still a lot more room to the downside. And it's not looking too good, to be honest. But the only reason to be bullish is alongside momentum, and if we start breaking back above levels of resistance. And basically, if we can break above 277, 278 to be safe, and that's very far away. But basically, you could try to take longs against levels of support. Those are the two times that you could basically go long. But yeah, it's not looking immediately good. So now when we put the eye test on the large tech stocks, very, very immediately, right? Apple falling, very similar to the NASDAQ chart. Amazon, same concept. Netflix, same concept. Meta, garbage. Doing a little better, but when you start looking at Google, Microsoft, Google is much further away from the bands. This is very, very risky opportunity to go long. Microsoft is always like a solid stock. Basically, if Microsoft can hold 236, it can hold, and it could continue up higher. But when you take a look at Tesla now, Tesla lost like 50% of its value in the last few weeks. And you can see right now. So Tesla is a good example of what I was trying to explain. So with the NASDAQ. So you can see how Tesla had a big red candle right here. It closed outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band. We came back, retested even like 50% of this candle. It gave time for the Bollinger Band it gave time for Tesla to trade within the Bollinger Band again for another big move to the downside. And then we became overextended again, only for it to even out one more. And then once it evened out, you could see that it traded within the Bollinger Band again, only for it to set up for another massive drop to the downside. So that is basically what I was trying to explain that could happen on the NASDAQ. So if that happens on the NASDAQ, also Nvidia took a tumble today. So basically there's still more room to the downside for everything, essentially. The bonds are showing weakness, but the VIX is showing some sort of strength, right? But yeah, I mean, that's the immediate, thought process of how everything looks. But the SPY is holding up pretty well due to the IWM, and also I didn't take a look at crude oil. So crude oil is also another reason why SPY is doing well, but SPY and the IWM are holding pretty decently. And yeah, I mean, if the NASDAQ just continues showing weakness, then the SPY is going to get pulled down. But yeah, I mean, immediately there's not really much else to look at. It's just a waiting game. There's volume drying up. We need to see how we end the year, and then we need to see how we start the year. And that is going to be very, very important. So I'm pretty interested. I'm very, very excited to see how that plays out. And yeah, man, it's really fun to do everything with you guys as well. And yeah, just taking it one day at a time, seeing how things play out. And things are playing out pretty well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.